The giant meeting hall was filled with strange creatures from across the galaxy. Some had blue skin and 3 eyes. Others looked like walking trees with silver bark. A few floated in the air inside glass bubbles filled with green gas. They all sat in a big circle, talking in voices that sounded like music or grinding metal. Taman stood in the center of the circle. He was 60 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore Earth's best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with gold buttons. His hands shook just a little as he held a small device that translated his words into hundreds of alien languages. "Please," Taman said, his voice echoing in the huge room. "My people need your help. This enemy is too strong for us to fight alone." The creatures around him made sounds that might have been laughter. Some clicked their claws, others buzzed their wings. A few just stared at him with cold, unblinking eyes. Above them all, a massive screen showed pictures that made Taman's stomach turn. Black ships shaped like insects moved through space. They ate planets whole, turning everything into more of themselves. The Void Swarm, they called it. It had already destroyed 12 worlds in the past month. Speaker Velthar rose from the largest chair. He looked like a giant spider made of crystal, with light flowing through his body like water. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass. "The Council has made its decision," Velthar said. "Humanity lacks the technology to be useful in this war. Your species is too new, too weak. You would only slow us down." Taman felt his heart sink. He had come here with so much hope. Earth's best scientists had worked for months to prepare his presentation. They had shown the Council everything: their nuclear weapons, their spaceships, their brave soldiers. None of it was enough, but we can learn, Taman said. "We can help in other ways. We have resources. We have people willing to fight." "Your resources are nothing compared to ours," said another council member. This one looked like a floating jellyfish with golden tentacles. "Your weapons are toys. Your ships are barely faster than light." More sounds of laughter echoed through the hall. Taman felt his face grow hot with shame and anger. Captain Sora Kim watched from the observation deck above. She was 35 years old, with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore the uniform of Earth's Space Defense Force, simple gray with a small Earth patch on her shoulder. Sora had commanded the UES Defiance for 5 years. Her ship was small compared to the alien vessels surrounding the Council station, but she was proud of it. Her crew of 200 humans had fought space pirates and helped rescue colonies in trouble. They were good people, brave people. Now she watched alien fleets prepare to leave human space forever. Their ships were beautiful and terrible. Some looked like living creatures, others like moving cities made of light. All of them were leaving. All of them were abandoning Earth. "Captain," said her second-in-command, Lieutenant Minho Park. He was young, only 23, with worried eyes. "The Zephyrian fleet just powered down their defense platforms around Jupiter. They're pulling out." Sora nodded but said nothing. She had expected this. The aliens had never really trusted humans. They had let Earth join the Council only because humans were good at fixing things and didn't ask for much in return. Down in the hall, Taman made one last try. "If you won't fight with us," he said, "at least give us warning when the swarm comes. Let us evacuate our people." "Evacuation ships cost resources," Velthar replied. "Resources better used to defend worlds that matter." The words hit Taman like a physical blow. Worlds that matter. Earth didn't matter to them. Humanity didn't matter. Dr. Jinho Park sat in his laboratory on the Council's science station. He was 42 years old, with kind eyes behind thick glasses. For 10 years, he had worked with alien scientists to study new forms of life. He had made friends among the stars. He thought they cared about him. His communication device beeped. A message from his research partner, Dr. Kelnari of the Helix Empire. Jinho smiled and opened it, expecting to see plans for their next project. Research. Cooperation with human subjects terminated immediately. All shared data classified under Council Security Protocol 7. Do not contact this station again. Jinho stared at the message for a long time. 10 years of friendship ended with a few cold sentences. He thought about all the discoveries they had made together, all the late nights spent talking about science and dreams. All of it meant nothing now. Back in the council hall, the meeting was ending. Velthar stood tall, his crystal body shining brighter. "The council fleet will establish a defense line at the Kepler Nebula," he announced. "All non-essential species will evacuate beyond this point. Humanity's territory falls outside our protection zone." Taman felt the words like ice in his chest. They weren't just refusing to help. They were writing Earth off completely. "How long do we have?" he asked quietly. "Our calculations suggest the swarm will reach your system in approximately 6 months, Velthar said. "We expect resistance to last no more than 3 standard days." 3 days. They thought humanity would last 3 days. As the council members began to leave, Taman stood alone in the center of the empty hall. His life's work as a diplomat was over. Everything he had tried to build between humans and aliens was falling apart. On Luna, Earth's moon, Hyejin Lee worked at the main communications center. She was 28 years old with long black hair tied back for work. She had spent years maintaining contact with alien worlds, translating messages, keeping the galaxy connected. Now she received order after order to shut down communication links. Trade channels closed, defense networks went dark. Even simple friendship messages stopped coming through. Hyejin looked at her screen showing the communication map of human space. Green lights showed active connections. One by one, they turned red as alien worlds cut all contact. Soon, only Earth and its colonies would be left, alone in the dark. She opened the emergency broadcast system that could reach every human world at once. Her hands moved over the controls as she prepared humanity's last message to the galaxy. "This is Luna Communications to all council worlds," she said into the microphone. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were full of unshed tears. "We understand your decision. We know you think we're too weak to matter. We'll prove you wrong. Earth and her children will handle this ourselves. Don't expect to hear from us again." She ended the transmission and shut down the system. For the first time in 50 years, humanity fell silent. Above Earth, alien ships finished their evacuation. They left behind empty space stations and abandoned trade posts. The silence was complete. In the council hall, Taemin picked up his small translation device and put it in his pocket. He would never need it again. As he walked toward the exit, he spoke quietly to himself. "You made a mistake," he said. "Humans don't break. We bend, we adapt, we survive, and we remember who our friends are." The lights in the hall dimmed as he left. Behind him, the screen still showed the approaching void swarm, eating its way through the galaxy toward Earth. The abandonment was complete. Now humanity would face the dark alone. 6 months had passed since the Council left human space. The alien spy ships hidden at the edge of the solar system sent their reports back to their masters. The reports were all the same. Silence. No radio signals came from human worlds. No ships moved between the colonies. The busy trade routes that once carried goods and people had become empty space. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. Colonel Minsu Choi stood in a room that shouldn't exist. The walls were made of a strange metal that seemed to bend light around itself. Through the windows, he could see Earth. But it looked different, like he was seeing it through water. Minsu was 45 years old, with short gray hair and scars on his hands from his early days as a soldier. He had fought in the colony wars and helped build Earth's first space defenses. Now he was building something much bigger. "Report," he said to the young woman at the control panel. Lieutenant Yu Jin Kang turned to face him. She was 30 years old, with bright eyes and oil stains on her uniform from working with the machines. "The fold space generators are working perfectly, sir. We've successfully moved the entire New Tokyo colony into Pocket Dimension 7. The aliens think the planet is empty." Minsu nodded. It had been his idea to use the experimental dimensional technology that human scientists had been secretly working on for years. While the Council thought humans were primitive, Earth's best minds had been exploring the hidden corners of space-time. "How many colonies have we moved?" he asked. 47, sir. plus 12 industrial stations and 6 research bases. Over 30 million people now live in pocket dimensions that no alien scanner can detect. On the main screen, Minsu could see the false images being projected where the real colonies used to be. To any alien observer, the planets looked empty and dead. In reality, they were busier than ever. Yujin pulled up another display. The Ghost Fleet construction is ahead of schedule. We now have over 300 ships that can phase between dimensions. They're completely invisible to conventional sensors. The Ghost Fleet was humanity's secret weapon. Ships that existed partially outside normal space could appear and disappear at will. They could travel faster than light without using the hyperspace routes the aliens controlled. Most importantly, they could watch and learn without being seen. Dr. Jinho Park worked in a laboratory hidden inside a folded piece of space near Mars. The room was bigger inside than outside, thanks to dimensional manipulation technology. He had spent the past 6 months studying samples of the void swarm that human agents had secretly collected. Jinho looked tired but excited. His eyes were bright behind his glasses as he studied the data on his screens. The alien scientists, who had abandoned him, would be amazed by what he had discovered. Fascinating, he said to his assistant, Dr. Yoonji Kim. She was 29 years old, with steady hands, and a mind that could solve problems others couldn't even understand. The swarm organisms adapt to whatever attacks them, Jinho continued. But their adaptation mechanism has a weakness. They can only process threats that exist in normal spacetime. They can't adapt to weapons that phase between dimensions. Eunji smiled. So our new dimensional weapons will work against them? Better than that, Jinho said. I think we can use their own adaptation process against them. If we hit them with weapons from multiple dimensions at once, their adaptation system will overload and shut down. Meanwhile, Bo-Ram Song sat in a small ship hidden in the shadow of an asteroid near the Council's main communication hub. She was 33 years old, with the kind of face people forgot easily, which made her perfect for spy work. For 10 years, Bo-Ram had worked as a translator for the Council. She knew their languages, their codes, and their secret communication methods. Now she used that knowledge to listen to their conversations without them knowing. The Valkyrie Empire is getting nervous, she reported to her handler back on Earth. 3 of their mining worlds have stopped producing rare metals. They don't know why. Her handler's voice came through the encrypted channel. What about the Helix Coalition? Same story. Their trade convoys are reporting resource shortages. Some of their key supply lines have just stopped working. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had been taking what they needed from dimensional copies of mining worlds. While the real planets continued their normal operations, humans harvested identical resources from the same worlds in parallel dimensions. Captain Sora Kim commanded the UES Defiance from the bridge of a ship that had been completely rebuilt. The old engines were gone, replaced by dimensional phase drives. The hull was made of new materials that could exist in multiple dimensions at once. Captain, said her navigation officer, we're receiving reports from Ghost Fleet units throughout the galaxy. All observation posts are operational and undetected. Sora smiled. Human ships were now positioned near every major alien world, watching and learning. They mapped trade routes, studied military movements, and identified weaknesses in alien defenses. The Council thought humanity was dead, but human eyes were everywhere. Any response to our presence? Sora asked. None, Captain. They still can't detect us. As far as they know, we don't exist. On Earth, in a bunker buried deep underground, Taemin met with the leaders of humanity's shadow government. He was older now, with more gray in his hair, but his eyes burned with quiet determination. The transformation is complete, reported General Hyun-woo Kim, formerly Taemin's diplomatic aide. All human colonies have been successfully hidden in pocket dimensions. Our industrial capacity has increased by 400% since we went dark. Taemin studied the holographic display showing humanity's hidden empire. Dozens of worlds existed in folded space, connected by dimensional gates. Massive factories built weapons and ships that no alien could imagine. Research stations pushed the boundaries of science in directions the Council had never explored. What about population? Taemin asked. Growing faster than ever, replied Dr. Sujin Han, the new director of colonial affairs. When people don't have to worry about alien oversight, they focus on building families and communities. We estimate over 50 million humans now live in dimensions the Council can't access. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from the monitoring stations. Captain Jae-won Park's face appeared on the main screen. He was broadcasting from somewhere near the Andromeda Gateway. Sir, we've detected massive void swarm movement, Jae-won reported. 3 more Council worlds have been consumed. The aliens are falling back to their secondary defense line. Taemin leaned forward. How much time do we have? The swarm will reach the edge of human space in approximately 6 weeks, Jae-won said. But sir, there's something else. We've been analyzing their attack patterns. The swarm isn't just randomly consuming worlds. It's learning, adapting its tactics with each battle. Let it learn, said General Hyunwoo Kim. It can adapt to alien weapons all at once. It has never faced human ingenuity. As the meeting ended, Taemin walked to the window of his underground office. Through the reinforced glass, he could see the surface of Earth above. It looked peaceful, almost empty. The aliens watching from their hidden ships would see nothing unusual. They had no idea that beneath their feet, humanity was preparing for war. In the deepest research facilities, human scientists worked on weapons that bent the laws of physics, ships that could attack from multiple dimensions simultaneously, defensive systems that created barriers in folded space, technologies that would make the Council's most advanced weapons look like stone tools. The silence that the aliens had forced upon humanity was becoming their greatest advantage. While the Council fled from the void swarm, humans studied it, learned its weaknesses, and prepared counters for its every tactic. Hai-Jin Lee worked at her new communication station, hidden in a pocket dimension near Jupiter. Her job now was not to talk to aliens, but to coordinate the vast network of human colonies spread across folded space. All stations report ready, she announced to the command center. The dimensional communication network is fully operational. Every human world can talk to every other human world instantly, regardless of distance. The irony was not lost on any of them. The aliens had cut humanity off from their communication networks, thinking it would leave them isolated and helpless. Instead, humans had built their own network, one that was faster and more secure than anything the Council possessed. As night fell on Earth, though time had little meaning in the pocket dimensions, humanity continued its silent preparation. They had been given 6 months to evolve or die. They had chosen evolution. The void swarm was coming, expecting to find a weak, isolated species clinging to a few primitive worlds. Instead, it would face an enemy that had transformed itself in the darkness, becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. The Council had made their choice 6 months ago. Soon, they would learn what that choice had cost them. The warning alarm started ringing at exactly 0347 Earth Standard Time. In the hidden command center beneath Antarctica, red lights flashed as sensors detected the arrival of the void swarm at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Dong-hyun Lee stood before the massive tactical display, watching as millions of dark shapes poured through space toward Earth. He was 52 years old, with iron-gray hair and steady hands that had never trembled, not even now facing the enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. "Contact," reported the sensor operator. "Multiple bogies, too many to count. They're coming in fast." Through his command ship's windows, Dong-hyun could see nothing with his naked eyes. The silent thunder existed partially outside normal space, invisible and untouchable to conventional weapons. Around him, his crew worked at stations that flickered between dimensions, controlling weapons that shouldn't exist. "Sir," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Nari Yoon, "we're detecting Council observation ships at the system's edge. They're maintaining position but not approaching." Dong-hyun smiled grimly. The aliens had come to watch humanity die. They expected it to be quick. "Let them watch," he said. "They might learn something." The void swarm looked like a living nightmare as it swept through space. Each creature was the size of a city block, with black metal skin that rippled like liquid. They had no visible weapons, they didn't need any. Their bodies were weapons, able to tear apart anything they touched and absorb it to make more of themselves. Dr. Yoonji Kim watched from her research station as the swarm spread through the outer solar system. Her screens showed detailed scans of individual creatures, revealing the terrible beauty of their construction. "They're even more complex than we thought," she reported to the command center. "Each organism is part machine, part living tissue. They share information instantly across the entire swarm." "Weaknesses?" asked Admiral Dong Hyun through the communication link. "Their adaptation system is their strength and their weakness," Yoonji replied. "They learn to counter every attack, but the learning process takes approximately 2.3 seconds. If we hit them with something completely different before they can adapt..." "Understood. Begin dimensional weapon activation." Throughout the solar system, human ships began to decloak. Not all of them. Only enough to make the aliens think they were seeing humanity's entire fleet. The real ghost fleet remained hidden, watching and waiting. Captain Sora Kim's ship, the Defiance, materialized directly in the path of the swarm's advance. Her crew was ready. They had trained for this moment for months. "All weapons charged," reported her tactical officer. "Dimensional torpedoes locked on target." "Fire," Sora ordered. The torpedoes that left her ship were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They traveled through folded space, hitting their targets from angles that didn't exist in normal physics. The swarm creatures struck by these weapons simply vanished, torn apart across multiple dimensions. But the swarm was fast. Within seconds, the surviving creatures began to adapt. Their bodies changed, becoming partially translucent, trying to exist in the same folded space as the human weapons. "They're learning," Sora reported. Switching to Plan B. Plan B involved weapons that fired from 4 different dimensions at once. As the swarm adapted to one type of attack, they were hit by another from a completely different angle of reality. The battle raged across the solar system. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking without warning and vanishing before the swarm could counterattack. But there were so many enemies, and they kept learning, kept adapting. "We're losing ground," reported Captain Jaewon Park from his position near Jupiter. "They figured out how to partially phase shift. Our weapons are becoming less effective." That was when Dr. Yoonji Kim made her breakthrough. "Admiral," she called over the communication system, "I've found it. The swarm's adaptation has a fatal flaw. They can't adapt to something that doesn't follow consistent rules." "Explain quickly," Dong Hyun replied, watching as more swarm creatures poured toward Earth. "Their learning system expects patterns," Yoonji said, her voice excited despite the danger. "If we randomize our attacks, different dimensions, different physics, different rules every few seconds, their adaptation system will overload trying to counter everything at once." "Can you make it work?" "Already working on it. Give me 10 minutes." The next 10 minutes were the longest of humanity's history. Human ships fought a desperate holding action, using every trick they had learned in their months of preparation. The swarm kept coming, kept adapting, kept learning. On Earth's surface, people who didn't even know about the battle above looked up at strange lights in the sky. Reality itself was bending as weapons from multiple dimensions tore holes in space-time. Then, Yoonji's solution went online. "Chaos protocol activated," she announced. "All ships switch to randomized attack patterns. No weapon fires the same way twice." The change was immediate and devastating. Human ships began firing weapons that operated under different laws of physics with each shot. Missiles that existed in 7 dimensions followed by energy beams that bent time itself. Projectiles that moved backward through cause and effect. The swarm's adaptation system, designed to counter consistent threats, went haywire trying to process attacks that followed no logical pattern. Creatures that had been invincible moments before began to malfunction, their bodies flickering between dimensions as their adaptation protocols crashed. "It's working," shouted Lieutenant Nari Yoon from her position on the Silent Thunder. "Their coordination is breaking down." But the battle was far from over. The swarm still had millions of creatures, and they were beginning to adapt even to chaos itself. Worse, the largest swarm creatures had held back from the initial attack, watching and learning from the smaller ones' mistakes. Admiral Dong Hyun made a decision that would either save humanity or doom it completely. All ships fall back to Earth, he ordered. Let them think they've won. Draw them into the final trap. The human fleet retreated, allowing the swarm to surge toward Earth. From their observation posts, the Council aliens watched what they thought was humanity's final defeat. Some felt sad. Others were simply relieved that the dangerous experiment of human membership in galactic civilization was ending. But as the swarm approached Earth, something impossible happened. Dozens of massive structures began to materialize around the planet. They looked like rings made of twisted metal and flowing energy, each one the size of Earth's moon. They had been hidden in folded space, waiting for this moment. "What are those?" asked the captain of a Council observation ship. His science officer checked the readings 3 times before answering. "Unknown technology, sir. The energy output is impossible. It's drawing power from 11 different dimensions simultaneously." Nari. Yoon stood at the controls of the largest dimensional cannon ever built by human hands. It existed in 4 dimensions at once, drawing energy from the quantum foam that underlaid reality itself. "Target locked," she reported. "The swarm's central consciousness is directly ahead, surrounded by its largest protectors. Fire when ready," Admiral Dong Hyun ordered. The weapon that Nari fired didn't just travel through space, it traveled through time, through dimension, through the fundamental forces that held reality together. It struck the swarm's central mind from 12 different angles of existence simultaneously. The effect was beyond devastating. The central consciousness that had controlled billions of swarm creatures across half the galaxy simply ceased to exist, not just in the present, but across all possible timelines. The remaining creatures, suddenly cut off from their guiding intelligence, turned on each other in confusion. In the space of 30 minutes, the unstoppable void swarm that had consumed entire star systems was reduced to scattered, mindless fragments, drifting through space. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, one by one, more human ships began to decloak throughout the solar system. Ships that had been there all along, invisible and waiting. The Council observers realized with growing horror that they had never seen humanity's real fleet at all, only the smallest part of it. "How many ships are there?" whispered the Velkari captain, watching from his hidden position. His tactical officer was pale with shock. "Over 3,000, sir. All of them using technology we've never seen before. Sir, I don't think humanity was ever in any real danger." As the last swarm fragments were hunted down and destroyed, Admiral Dong Hyun allowed himself a small smile. The battle was over. Humanity had not only survived, they had won decisively. But more importantly, they had shown the watching galaxy exactly what they had become during their 6 months of silence. The Council had expected humanity to last 3 days. Instead, humanity had ended a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for years. Now they would have to live with the consequences of their choice to abandon their former allies. 3 months after humanity's impossible victory over the Void Swarm, the galaxy was no longer the same place. In the Council chambers where Timon had once begged for help, emergency meetings happened every day. The aliens who had abandoned humanity now faced reports that made no sense. Speaker Velthar's crystal body dimmed with worry as he read the latest intelligence briefing. His advisors stood around him, all of them looking confused and frightened. "Explain this again," Velthar said, his voice like breaking glass. "How can human ships appear in 17 different star systems at the same time?" The Zephyrian intelligence officer shifted nervously. "Our sensors detect human vessels materializing without warning, conducting what appears to be resource extraction, then vanishing before our patrol ships can respond. Yesterday, a human mining operation appeared inside our most secure system, collected 3 tons of quantum crystals and disappeared. Our defense grid never even saw them coming. And the trade disruptions? Getting worse, sir. 12 major shipping routes report missing cargo. Not stolen, missing. The cargo containers arrive empty at their destinations, but our scans show they were never opened during transport. What the Council didn't understand was that humanity had been taking what they needed from dimensional duplicates of the cargo. While the real containers continued to their destinations, humans harvested identical goods from parallel versions of the same shipments. Captain Jaewon Park commanded one of these impossible missions. His ship, the Wanderer, existed primarily in a pocket dimension that ran parallel to normal space. He could see the alien cargo convoy moving through regular space, but they couldn't see him. "Target acquired," reported his navigator, Lieutenant Min Ho Yoon. 3,000 tons of rare metals heading for the Velkari shipyards. "Begin extraction," Jaewon ordered. The process was elegant in its simplicity. The Wanderer extended dimensional tendrils into parallel space, locating versions of the same cargo that existed in alternate realities. The metals they took were identical to those in the real convoy but came from a dimension where the convoy had never been loaded. "Extraction complete," Minho reported. "The original cargo is untouched. They'll never know we were here." Jaewon smiled. This was how humanity had built its hidden empire, by taking resources from places that technically didn't exist, at least not in the reality the aliens could perceive. On Earth, Su Jin Han reviewed reports from across human space. As director of colonial affairs, she oversaw an empire that the Council couldn't even imagine. Her office existed in folded space beneath Seoul, with windows that looked out onto dozens of different realities simultaneously. "Population report," she said, to her assistant. 230 million humans now live in pocket dimensions," came the reply. "We have established colonies on over 400 worlds that exist in parallel space. Industrial output has increased by 200% since we went silent." Sujin nodded, looking at the holographic display that showed humanity's true territory. Each point of light represented a world that existed in folded space, connected to the others by dimensional gates. Some were mining worlds, stripping resources from dimensions the aliens had never discovered. Others were research stations pushing the boundaries of science beyond what anyone thought possible. "What about expansion into new sectors?" "Captain, Lee's exploration fleet has identified 37 uninhabited systems in the Outer Rim that we can access through dimensional fold space. We can establish colonies there without the Council ever knowing they exist." Meanwhile, Dr. Jin Ho Park worked in a laboratory that existed in 11 dimensions at once. His research into the Void Swarm had led to discoveries that revolutionized human understanding of reality itself. "Fascinating," he said to his research team. "The swarm's dimensional adaptation mechanism, we can reverse engineer it for our own use." Dr. Yoonji Kim looked up from her workstation. "You mean we can adapt our technology in real time like the swarm did?" "Better than that," Jin-Ho replied. "We can create weapons and defenses that adapt faster than any enemy can respond. Imagine ships that automatically counter any attack by shifting to a dimension where that attack can't exist." "The Council would never be able to touch us," Yoonji said, understanding the implications. "The Council can't touch us now," Jin-Ho pointed out. "This would just make it official." In the depths of space, human observation posts watched and recorded everything the aliens did. Lieutenant Bo-Ram Song, now promoted to intelligence commander, coordinated a network of spies that the Council never suspected existed. "The Helix Coalition is mobilizing its fleet," she reported during the daily briefing. "They're trying to establish new trade routes to replace the ones that keep malfunctioning." General Hyun-Woo Kim, Earth's new defense minister, studied the tactical display. "Let them try. They still don't understand that we can access any point in their space instantly. Their new routes will fail just like the old ones." The truth was that humanity had become the galaxy's most powerful civilization without anyone realizing it. While the Council thought they were dealing with isolated sabotage incidents, humans had actually gained the ability to strike anywhere, take anything, and disappear without trace. "Sir," Bo-Ram continued, "we're also detecting increased communication between Council worlds. They're trying to coordinate a response to what they call the human problem." "What kind of response?" "Unknown. But they're scared, sir. Really scared." That fear was spreading through every Council world. On the Velkari homeworld, Speaker Velthar met with his military advisors, in a room shielded by their most advanced security systems. "We need options," Velthar said. "Humanity has become a threat we don't understand." "We could try diplomatic contact," suggested one advisor. "They don't respond to our messages," Velthar replied. "It's like they've decided we don't exist." "What about military action? Against an enemy we can't find, using weapons we don't understand in battles we can't win?" Velthar's crystal body flared with frustrated light. "The humans destroyed the Void Swarm with ease. They're operating technology that makes our best science look primitive." The discussion was interrupted by an urgent report from their deep space sensors. "Sir," the technician announced, "we're detecting massive industrial activity in the Ross sector, but according to our surveys, that region is empty space." "Show me." The holographic display revealed energy signatures that suggested massive construction projects, but the visual scans showed nothing but empty space. "Could this be more human activity?" asked an advisor. "It has to be," Velthar said quietly. "They're building something huge in a place we can't see." What they couldn't know was that humanity was building entire star systems in pocket dimensions, creating manufacturing centers that existed parallel to normal space. These facilities produced ships, weapons, and technology at a rate that dwarfed the entire Council's combined industrial capacity. Chanho Li, Director of Human Intelligence, stood in a command center that monitored the entire galaxy in real time. Through dimensional observation posts, humanity could watch every alien world simultaneously without being detected. "The Zephyrians are requesting emergency council sessions twice a week now," he reported to the Leadership Council. "Their economy is collapsing as their trade networks fail." "And the others?" "The Helix Coalition has lost 3 major colonies. Not to attack. The colonists just packed up and left when their supply lines became unreliable. The Crystalline Empire is considering pulling back to their core worlds." Taemin, now serving as Earth's elder advisor, listened to these reports with mixed feelings. Part of him felt satisfaction at seeing the aliens who had abandoned humanity now struggling with problems they couldn't solve. But another part of him remembered when he had genuinely hoped for friendship between humans and aliens. "Are we ready for the next phase?" he asked. General Hyunwoo Kim nodded. "All Ghost Fleet units are in position. We can decloak simultaneously above every Council homeworld within minutes of receiving the order." "Weapons?" "Every human ship now carries dimensional weaponry that makes our swarm killers look like toys. We could disable every alien fleet in the galaxy without destroying a single ship. And our colonies? Hidden and protected. Even if the aliens discovered dimensional technology tomorrow, it would take them decades to find our worlds." Taemin stood and walked to the window of the command center. Through the reinforced glass, he could see the surface of Earth above, peaceful, quiet, seemingly normal. But beneath that surface, humanity had transformed itself into something the galaxy had never seen before. "Begin Phase 4, he said quietly. "It's time to remind the Council that we exist." Across human space, ships that had been invisible for months began to prepare for revelation. The aliens thought they were dealing with random incidents and unexplained phenomena. Soon they would learn that everything that had happened was planned, coordinated, and executed by the species they had left to die. The silence was about to end, and when it did, the galaxy would never be the same again. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the largest gathering of alien species in over a century. In the same chamber where they had once abandoned humanity, representatives from dozens of worlds now sat in desperate discussion. Speaker. Velthar's crystal body flickered with unstable light as he read the latest reports. The Velkari Empire, once the most powerful member of the Council, was on the edge of complete economic collapse. "Our trade networks have failed completely," announced the Velkari Economic Minister. 17 major shipping routes have become unreliable. Our colonies are reporting supply shortages of critical materials. "The situation is the same across all Council worlds," said the Helix representative, her voice tight with worry. "Whatever the humans are doing, it's coordinated and systematic." "But how?" demanded the Zephyrian ambassador. "Our scouts detect no human ships, no stations, no signs of organized activity." It's as if they're operating from somewhere we can't see. Velthar knew the truth, though it terrified him to admit it. They are operating from somewhere we can't see. The humans have developed technology we don't understand. They've become more advanced than any of us. The chamber fell silent. For months, the council had tried to pretend that the strange incidents affecting their worlds were just coincidences. Now they had to face reality. "We need to make contact," suggested the Crystalline Empire's representative. "Diplomacy has always been the council's strength." "With what?" Velthar asked bitterly. "They don't respond to our messages. We cut them off completely, remember? We told them they didn't matter." High above the council chamber, in a ship that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, Director Chan-Ho Lee watched the alien debate through sensors they couldn't detect. His intelligence network had been monitoring every council world for months, waiting for this moment. "They're starting to understand," he reported to Earth. "The economic pressure is working. Several colonies have already been abandoned." Prime Minister Ah Ri-jung reviewed the reports from her office deep beneath the Korean mountains. She was 43 years old, with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen humanity transformed from a dismissed species into the galaxy's dominant power. "Are we ready for the final demonstration?" she asked. "All Ghost Fleet units report ready," came General Hyunwoo Kim's response. "Every council homeworld is being monitored by invisible human ships. We can decloak simultaneously across the entire galaxy. Do it." The order went out through humanity's dimensional communication network, reaching every human ship in space instantly. Captains who had been waiting in folded space for months received the same simple message: reveal. On the Velkari homeworld, people looked up at their sky and gasped in shock. A massive human ship had appeared above their capital city, floating motionless in the atmosphere. It made no sound, sent no signals, and responded to no attempts at communication. It simply hung there like a dark reminder. The same scene played out on dozens of worlds. Above the Helix Coalition's Parliament building, the UES Defiance materialized with Captain Sora Kim, standing calmly on her bridge. Above, the Zephyrian trading centers, human ships that dwarfed the aliens' largest vessels appeared from nowhere. "Report from all sectors," Sora announced over the fleet communication channel. "All ships have successfully decloaked above primary targets." Admiral Dong-Hyun Lee, commanding the operation from his flagship Silent Thunder, checked the tactical display. Over 500 human ships had revealed themselves simultaneously across Council space. But the aliens still had no idea this represented less than 10% of humanity's true fleet. "Hold position," Dong-Hyun ordered. "No hostile actions. We're here to remind them we exist, not to start a war." The effect was immediate and devastating. On every council world, populations that had never seen human technology now stared up at ships that seemed to bend reality around themselves. The vessels flickered between dimensions, sometimes appearing solid, sometimes translucent, always impossible. In the council chamber, emergency alarms began ringing. Velthar received reports from across council space, each one more shocking than the last. "Human ships above the homeworld," reported the Velkari military. "3 vessels over our capital," came the message from Helix space. "They're everywhere," screamed the Zephyrian ambassador. Velthar felt something he had never experienced before: complete helplessness. The humans weren't attacking, weren't communicating, weren't negotiating. They were simply there, demonstrating power beyond anything the council possessed. "Can we scan them?" he asked his military advisors. "Negative, sir. Our sensors detect energy signatures that shouldn't be possible. These ships seem to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously." "Weapons?" "Unknown. But based on what they did to the Void Swarm..." The advisor didn't need to finish. Everyone remembered how humanity had casually destroyed an enemy that had terrorized the galaxy. That's when Prime Minister Ah Ri-jung's message reached every council world simultaneously. It came through their own communication networks, bypassing all security measures as if they didn't exist. "People of the Galactic Council," her voice said in perfect translation to every alien language. 3 years ago, you chose to abandon humanity when we needed allies most. You told us we were too weak to matter, too primitive to help, too new to deserve survival. The image of Ahri appeared on every screen across council space, in government buildings, military headquarters, even private homes. She stood in what looked like a command center that stretched beyond the horizon, with holographic displays showing the entire galaxy. You were wrong, she continued. Humanity is not weak. We are not primitive, and we most certainly matter. The silence you forced upon us has become your prison. In the council chamber, Velthar tried to respond, tried to establish communication, but his signals were blocked by technology he couldn't understand. We did not ask for war, Ari said. We asked for friendship. We offered cooperation. You chose abandonment. Now you will live with the consequences. The demonstration that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships began creating what they called dimensional echoes, reality fluctuations that made alien worlds experience brief moments of existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Cities flickered between versions of themselves. Ships appeared, to be in two places at once. People looked up to see stars that were arranged differently, then watched them shift back to normal. It was a gentle reminder that humanity could manipulate reality itself. On Earth, in the same bunker where humanity's leaders had planned their survival, Taimin spoke to a gathering of the people who had transformed their species. He was much older now, with white hair and tired eyes, but his voice still carried the strength that had once represented humanity to the stars. They expected us to die quietly in the dark, he said, looking out at the holographic display showing human ships above dozens of alien worlds. Instead, we became the dark. We learned to see in places they cannot look, to exist in spaces they cannot reach, to act in ways they cannot understand. General Hyunwoo Kim stepped forward with the final report. All objectives achieved, sir. Every council world is now fully aware of our capabilities. Their military leaders confirm they have no effective countermeasures against our technology. Economic impact? Complete. Their trade networks are dependent on resources we control through dimensional access. Without our cooperation, their economies will collapse within months. Political response? Sujin Han answered that question. 17 council member species have formally withdrawn from galactic politics. They're returning to their homeworlds and fortifying their borders. The Crystalline Empire has requested private negotiations for non-aggression treaties. Taemin nodded slowly. The galaxy that had once dismissed humanity as insignificant was now reorganizing itself around the reality of human power. And the council itself? In chaos, reported Chan Ho Lee. Velthar has called for emergency sessions every day for the past week, but fewer representatives show up each time. The council that ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years is falling apart. As if summoned by their discussion, a priority message arrived from the council chambers. It was Velthar himself, his crystal form flickering with desperate light as he made what everyone knew was a final plea. Prime Minister Jung, his translated voice said, the Galactic Council formally requests diplomatic contact with the human empire. We acknowledge our past mistakes and seek to establish new relationships, based on mutual respect. Ari looked at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. No, she said quietly. They had their chance for mutual respect. They chose abandonment instead. The weeks that followed became known as the Silent Conquest. Though no shots were fired, no planets invaded, no governments overthrown, humanity simply existed, their ships visible above alien worlds, their technology casually demonstrating superiority over everything the Council possessed. Trade routes that had operated for centuries became unreliable. Resources that civilizations depended on became scarce. Communication networks experienced random delays and failures. It wasn't an attack. It was a reminder that the galaxy now operated according to human convenience. One by one, alien civilizations began to isolate themselves.